Welcome again, my friends. Now it is time to set up Redux Toolkit, explain what a Redux store is, creating a user slice, and explain how to dispatch some actions, and also we will add Redux persist to save data even after refresh. So let's start by explaining the idea why we need Redux Toolkit. Let's say you have an application. You would have many pages, you would have many components inside components. Okay. So what if you had like some source of data that is accessible in every page and every component, and you can interact with it, change data, get data, everything else. And that is the point of having a Redux store. What it does, it just wraps your application with a provider that is connected to a certain store. That's so you have all the data needed there. You need to get it, you can get it from anywhere in your application. And if you really need to update something, you can do that. Remove something, you can do that. So for example, when you log in and you have a user, you take this user data and store it, for example, in that store. And whenever you need that in any component, you can call that by its name, which is the user, for example, and get the certain data. If you want to log out, for example, you want to remove the user data from there, you can do that. So you see why this can come in handy, not only with the user, but many other stuff that is, very important to understand this idea. And Redux Toolkit is the most used, package for this kind of work. So let me walk you through how we're gonna do all of this. First of all, you gotta open your terminal and install the 3 tools or packages that we will need. First of all, we're gonna need Redux.js Toolkit, and then we'll need React Redux and Redux Persist. I've already installed them, okay? So you need to install all of those before you continue with me. And I want you to go back to your Explorer, open the source folder, create a new folder called, for example, app, and inside of it, I'm gonna have a file that is called store.js. And right here, we'll create our store. So export const store, and we need a function to do that from Redux.js Toolkit, which is called configure store. So we'll configure this store right here. And then inside of it, you need to define the actual reducer. Let's say, for example, you have a useReducer as a part of that store. But now we don't have anything right now. But like just a heads up, you could have many, parts of that sort, like one for the user, one, for example, for chat, one for conversations, whatever it is. So when you have that, you need like some sort of tool to combine them. So let's create a root reducer right here. And this one is gonna be just simply used in a combine reducers, which is simply combine them. And right here, I can combine all of that. Like I can have, for example, my user, okay? And this user is gonna be connected to a certain like reducer, which is, for example, useReducer, okay? And the other chats, etc. But for now, we don't have it. But we need to add this right here as the root reducer. And when we add all of those, we're gonna add this back here. So don't worry. And then we need the dev tools to be true or in development. So we need to see what's going on. And I'm going to show you that in action. So that is actually how you configure your a store that's simple. So as I told you, we need some sort of reducer. Right here. So let's do that. I'm going to create a new folder in the source. Let's call this features. And then inside of this one, you can do it in a folder directly right here. Let's do it directly. I'm going to create a user slice. And then .js here. So this user slice, we need to create a slice. So all the parts that exist in that store, for example, for the user, is gonna be that part called a slice. So let's go and export, then const, and then user slice. And this simply, we're gonna use the create slice right here, and it's need few, data. So the first one is the name. So what is the name is gonna be? It's called for the user, it's called user, or current user, whatever you wanna call it. So after that, you need to define an initial state, okay? And an initial state, we can actually create it on top here for a better look for our application. So initial state that is equal, and we can define a state. So for example, in it, we're gonna have a user, and this user will have few things, like for example, the underscore ID or ID directly. I prefer to add it as underscore ID. That's my way of doing it. Or maybe let's name it ID to make it easier. So in the beginning, it's gonna be empty. The name also is gonna be empty for this user. And then the email is gonna be empty. This is the informations we need, the picture and also status. So picture and then status. And I'm also gonna have something right here for the token. Just add this right here, we'll explain everything later. Token simply for access. And also I'm gonna add here two things. I'm gonna add the status and then also I'm gonna add the error. Okay, this may say, why we need those here? Don't worry about it. Just add it like this and later I will explain everything. So now the initial state, you can just go initial states, but because it's the same name, we're allowed to just have it once. And it's simply this value of this one is going to be what we have in the initial state. Okay, so now we had the initial state. We also need the reducer. Okay, reducers. And the reducer simply functions to manipulate and manage the state that you have here. What I mean by that, like for example, okay, you're logged in and then you push some data right here, like a name, an email, etc. for this user. But then later you wanted to log out, for example. Then you will create a logout function, which simply goes to the state itself, and then simply do a few things, like it's go to the state dot status, if it was changed, we make it, equal sorry, and then empty again. Same for error. And then also it could go to the user, and then simply make it an empty object like that. So depending on what you want. For me, I like to predefine all the data rather than just leaving it empty. So I'm gonna do the same right here. So isn't that like really easy? It is actually. And then you will go, if you want to export this action, you can go export const, and then to export the action which is called logout. And what we will do, we have to just tie it to the user slice dot actions, because this is an action. And then we go to export default, and then we need to default the user slice dot reducer like this. So now I can go back to my store. This is very simple, don't worry about it. Go back to the combined reducers. This is going to be called user, and it's going to be with the user slice, and import that. And that's it. All we need to do now is just to go back to the index.js, and we need to import the provider from React Redux, and also we need the store. So I'm going to go import and then store from, we're going to go to the app, then store. And now you can change the strict mode right here. We can wrap this application with the provider. And this provider simply asks for a store, and the store is the store. And this is easy, and some people find it difficult. And I feel like now it's going to be easy for you. And after that, I want you to go to Google, for example, and go to the extensions and look for Redux DevTools and install it. And that will give you access. Is now if you inspected your browser, you're going to get a new tab right here. Let me see the console having errors. Okay, everything's fine. You're going to go, you have this Redux right here. If you click on this Redux, this is a new option, you will find your store. So this is our state for the store. It has one slice, which is user. What it does have, it has the status, the error, and the user objects with all the data that we have here. So this is actually beautiful, and this is the way to work with this. Okay, so we define that. Also, we know we have actions. Later, we will show you how. Actually, I can show you right now if you don't know how to use that. So for example, and what I'm gonna do is let me go back to my user slice, and I'm gonna make something like my initial state is that I have some name right here, which is my name. Okay, and now this is the initial state. This is my name there. So if I went back here and refresh this, so I know it takes too long to refresh. Let me just open this again here. So it is done. Close that and go back. So my Redux right here. So go back to Redux, and then my initial state in the user, you will find that my name is Mohammed Haji. Okay, so this is the initial state. Now I want to change that. How I'm gonna do that? Like, let me do an action which is logout. Let me log out, for example. What you have to do, let me go to my app, for example, and do this here. What I'm gonna do, for example, I can create a button, and this button is just simply gonna log out. So we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna go const and then dispatch, and then we're gonna use the use dispatch from React Redux to dispatch actions. And then in this button, when we click on it, so on click, what you have to do is create right here, because we're just system, you need to dispatch an action. And the action is simply how we exported it right here, which is logout here. So I'm gonna go and just add it there. Okay, and I need just to import it, and we run it as a function like this. So now if I went back, not here, I gotta go back here. So now I refresh my application just to show you that we are still in the initial state. I don't know, whenever, let me close this and then refresh is gonna refresh fast now. Okay, so I have this button logout. So let me go back. I go back to my Redux, and the reason it's refreshed slow because I had these settings on the network, sorry, very, very slow, that's why. So let me remove that. So let me go back to my Redux store. You can see that I have a user with this name. Look at the left side. So now if I click, let me zoom in here. So I have this logout button, let me click on it. So I click on it, look what happened. In the left side, there is something happened in the user, which is a dispatch in an action of type logout. So when we click on it right here, let's see what happened. You see, it emptied everything. This is the initial state. It has my name, but after dispatching this action, I have nothing here. Okay, I wanted just to show you how the actions work in React Redux store, and it's a good thing to understand. So let's see what we have to do next.